You've seen them everywhere, right? These AI sports predictions. They just feel like a total black box. A machine just eats up a ton of data and spits out a number. But how? How does it actually work? Well, today, we're going to crack that box wide open. We're going to build a prediction from the ground up, piece by piece, so you can see exactly what's going on under the hood. So for our example, we're going to be breaking down a real English Premier League match, Fulham versus Brentford. You've got two London rivals here, both with everything to play for. It's really the perfect test case for our AI. And really, it all boils down to this one simple, age-old question. Who's going to win? I mean, it's a question that starts endless arguments between fans, right? But for an AI, it's just a probability problem that needs to be solved.
Okay, I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm actually going to start with the answer. Bam. This is the AI's final prediction. It's giving Fulham a nearly 65% chance of winning at home. But how in the world did it land on that specific number? Well, to figure that out, we've got to rewind and go all the way back to the beginning.
All right, first things first. Before you can predict anything, you have to establish a basic power level. You've got to know who you're dealing with, right? Just how good are these two teams, fundamentally? So to do that, the model uses something called an ELO rating. Now, you might have heard of this from the world of chess. It's a really simple, kind of elegant system. See, every team has a score. If you win, your score goes up. You lose, it goes down. But here's the crucial part. Beating a really strong opponent gives you a way bigger boost than just beating up on a weak one. It's this constantly changing measure of a team's real strength. And this really shows you our starting point perfectly. Just look at their ELO ratings. Fulham and Brentford are incredibly close. I mean, check out those numbers. 1555.9 for Fulham, 1558.4 for Brentford. They're practically neck and neck. So based on this alone, it's pretty much a toss-up, which tells us one thing. We're going to need a lot more detail. Okay, so ELO gives us that big picture, bird's-eye view of team strength. But you know what? Games aren't won by ratings. They're won by scoring goals. So for the next layer of our prediction, the AI has to get way more specific. It has to ask, how many goals is each team actually likely to score? And to figure that out, the AI uses a statistical tool called a Poisson Regression. Yeah, I know, it sounds super complicated, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. It's a formula that's just really, really good at predicting things that don't happen very often. And if you think about it, in a soccer match, for all the running around, goals are actually kind of rare. That makes this the perfect tool for the job. So the model gets to work. It crunches all the numbers. We're talking home advantage, recent form, attacking stats, you name it. And for Fulham, it predicts they'll score about 1.64 goals. And for Brentford, a little bit lower at 1.42. So, okay, now we've got a slightly clearer picture, right? A small edge to the home team. But this is still just one pretty simple model. To get a prediction we can really rely on, well, we need to call in the specialists. And this is where things get really, really interesting. See, instead of just relying on one single approach, the system puts together a whole team of different, more advanced AI models. I want you to think of it like a council of expert advisors, where each one has a totally unique way of looking at the game. And this team, it's got some heavy hitters. You've got a random forest, which is kind of like asking thousands of little simple predictors to all cast a vote. Then there's a gradient boosting machine. This one's a bit smarter. It makes a prediction, sees where it messed up, and then the next model it builds focuses specifically on fixing that mistake. And of course, you've got a neural network, which tries to mimic the human brain to find these really deep, hidden patterns in the data. They're all looking at the exact same information, but in totally different ways. So what do they think is going to happen? Okay, so our first expert, the random forest, comes out swinging. It's very confident, it looks at all the data and gives Fulham a whopping 72.8% chance of winning. A clear home victory, no question in its mind. But wait a second, our next expert, the gradient boosting machine, well, it sees things very differently. It puts Fulham's chances at just under 49%. And get this, it gives a massive 39% chance to a draw. That's a much, much tighter game. Then the neural network chimes in, and wow, it's even more confident in the home team than the first model was. It's predicting an almost 83% shot for a Fulham win. Just absolute confidence. And our final specialist, LightGBM, brings a more moderate view to the table, but it still heavily favors a home win at over 62%. So now we've got a real problem, right? With all these conflicting opinions. Who do you trust? How does the AI take all of this and come up with one single final decision? Well, that brings us to what might be the most important step of all, putting together the ultimate prediction. Because you can't just, average all these opinions. That's too simple. You need a smarter way to find a consensus among your experts. This is done with a really cool process called stacking. Here's the breakdown. First, all of our specialist models make their individual predictions. Then, a new model called a meta-learner is brought in. Its only job is to look at the predictions from all the other AIs and learn which ones to trust and when. It's kind of like a team manager who knows all the strengths and weaknesses of their players and weighs their advice before making that final game-winning call. And that meta-learner's final carefully weighted decision is this: the 64.62% chance of a home win that we saw right at the top. And you'll notice, it isn't just a simple average. It's a much more sophisticated consensus, one that blends the wild confidence of that neural network with a cautious approach from the GBM model. But we're not done yet. We can actually go one level deeper. As a final stress test, the AI runs what's called a Monte Carlo Simulation. Now, this is where the real fun starts. It basically plays the match 10,000 times inside the computer, over and over, using the probabilities we just figured out. And this doesn't just tell us who's likely to win, it shows us how they're likely to win. And what do you get when you run 10,000 simulations? You get this. These were the top 5 most frequent scorelines. A 2-to-1 Fulham win was the single most common result, popping up in about 11% of those simulated games. Now this gives us the most detailed picture yet of what could actually go down on match day. So there you have it. We've gone all the way from a really simple rating to this incredibly complex simulation. Let's just quickly trace that journey one more time. Remember, each step added a whole new layer of smarts. We kicked things off with a basic power ranking, the ELO score. Then we got more specific, predicting the actual goals with that Poisson model. After that, we brought in a whole team of different AI experts to argue about the outcome. We used that manager AI to weigh all their opinions. And finally, we made them play the game 10,000 times to see what would really happen. We went from a single rating all the way to a final score. And that's it. From a simple number to a complex simulation, that's how a machine actually predicts a soccer match. But it does leave us with a pretty fascinating question for the future, doesn't it? As these models get better and better, more and more accurate, will knowing the odds beforehand change the magic of the game itself? Definitely something to think about.